So, Joshua, he promised good speakers or something. What did you say? Great impulses or whatever. I know what you're thinking. He promised that, and here's a German guy who needs that. And the last speaker, Diana, where is Diana Larsen? Not here yet. Her Twitter handle is Diana of Portland. Guess where she's from? The other Portland. So this conference is a total fraud. But bear with me, you don't have to, who else here in the room is something like a coach, a trainer, a consultant, any of those things? I know it's horrible to admit it, but okay, good. So I'm a management consultant. Don't believe in anything that I say. I am not trying to convince you. I just, what I'm humbly trying to accomplish in these 60 minutes is to plant the seeds of doubt in your hearts about what we have been doing in the Agile community, what we have been doing in organizations in terms of organizational development over the last couple of decades, and about how we are running organizations as a whole. So I would not really speak so much about specifically about software development, but about entire organizations and how we will turn them agile. I'm very convinced that we, to quote or to use the language of Malcolm Gladwell, we haven't yet reached the tipping point with agile, but we are, our community, your community, I will exclude myself from it for a moment, you are on the verge of being sucked into the doom of evil. And it's not me who's sucking, you know. The sucker is this. I will share with you a bit from a conversation that I had a couple of years ago with one of the, let's say, one of the old guys from the organizational development community. And I got acquainted with Scrum and Agile about 10 years ago. Through my brother, basically, who works in software development. And this other guy, Paul, I had this conversation with. He's an American. He's a legendary organizational development figure. In the change community, he's a very well-known figure. He knew let's say, the founders of organizational development personally. And once we had a conversation about Agile and the Agile movement, and he said something like, this is not me, he said that. Yeah? Not me, he said that. I call this Paul's axiom. And he said, the Agile community, very interesting people, very, very bright. They want to learn. They have the best intentions, but they do not understand organizational development. They don't know shit about it. I think he's right. Until this very day, very unfortunately, you have not yet mastered organizational development. And I can understand it. I mean, Agilists, having been busy for how many years now? 18 years or so, with getting teams agile, you know, and with mixed results. But we all have understood, I think, up to now, that the potential of Agile can only be fulfilled if we go beyond the team level. There are several movements now, commercial or not so commercial, about scaling it up, making it holistic, and involving entire organizations in this organizational development venture. And I will argue that we have to tackle this first. Don't believe in anything that I say, but this is the enemy. This is management, the social technology, shown as a little illustration. Do you see it? Management, the social technology? What is the DNA of management, the social technology? It is very important that we have this in mind when we talk about Agile, because we want to tackle this problem with Agile, always. 107 years ago, management, the social technology, was invented by one American, Frederick Winslow Taylor, who had the main idea about management, the social technology, I believe. He said, if we want to make organizations in the industry efficient, and if we want to run them like well-oiled machines, we have to liberate the doers, the workers at the bottom, from and that is the key element of management, the social technology. We must liberate the doers from the thinking. That was an amazing social invention. It's like evolution theory. I hear some Americans still do not believe in it. Okay, what the fuck? I don't give a fuck. But this is serious stuff. Frederick Taylor, and it was a brilliant idea. He said, if we liberate the doers from the thinking, if we separate the thinkers at the top and the doers at the bottom, if the thinkers steer the doers with all kinds of instruments and method, like org charts and planning, that came on later, if we do this kind of steering, then organizations will be so much more efficient that everybody can share in the profits and the benefits. That was Frederick Taylor's social vision. He was a Quaker, he had a social vision and shit, you know. So I like to use these words. Forgive me. I just like to. When I'm in America, I have to use these words all the time. Okay, some feedback. The microphone didn't like the word at all. The S word. So okay. So this was brilliant. Separate the thinkers from the doers and use a lot of steering. Organization as machine, that worked out brilliantly for one crucial reason that I will explain in a couple of minutes. And then along 70 years or so after Frederick Taylor, management, the social technology, this model here, this is a serious model. Almost all organizations are run on this model. Managers doing the steering, workers, or no, I'm not sure how you call yourself, software developers, underlings, amoeba, cogs, you know, anything. You just follow the orders, command and control. It has been such a smash hit, this model, that all organizations, including this university, I'm sure, including hospitals, public administration, not-for-profit, commercial organizations, all organizations almost in the world apply this model, knowingly or unknowingly. Do you work in an organization that is sizable and does not have an org chart, for example? No, that almost doesn't exist, right? Org charts like this, I mean, with the boxes, they, of course, belong on the garbage heap of history. No organization should have an org chart. It is evil. It is the dark side, and I will show you why. Management and social technology became a zombie tech in the 1970s. Around 40, I was born in the 1970s. Around 40, 50 years ago, management, which worked well, this division between thinkers and doers, it worked well in the industrial age. Then the industrial age ended in the 1970s, and management became a zombie technology that still infests organizations today. Yeah? Most organizations, almost all organizations. Now, why did management and social technology become zombified? This is the killer of management and social technology, not the girl. The thing this illustrates. Look at the girl. Do you think the weather is good or bad? Yeah, you can believe anything, but there's no such thing as good or bad weather. The weather doesn't care about your opinion about it. Yeah? There is no such thing as bad weather, it's just bad not to be prepared. And the same goes for complexity. The killer of management and social technology is complexity. Complexity is like the weather, neither good nor bad. It's a freaking fact. In the 1970s, complexity levels rose in organizations. I will show you what happened, but to understand the historical, the history of organizations, we first have to appreciate the difference. It's a well-known difference between the red and the blue, the complex and the complicated. Yeah? The red here is symbolized by a girl. The blue, the complicated, is symbolized by a robot or a machine. Yeah? If you think about a complicated system, I have a preferred example of a complicated thing, a complicated system. My watch, it is complicated. Correct? It is complicated, believe me. Yeah? A complicated thing can be controlled from the outside. It is exact, precise. The interactions between the parts do not change. Otherwise, the watch is kaputt, as we say in Germany. Yeah? The watch can be working or not working, but there's no life in it. You know? Complex systems, on the other side, they cannot be controlled and steered from the outside. They are not exact. They are not like machines. Complex or red systems produce an annoying thing. You know what it is? Surprise. Now, question. Has any of you ever said the following sentence or heard it or uttered it? Honey, you are so complicated. Who has ever said that? Honey, you are so complicated. Okay, I will tell you what. Honey is only complicated if he or she is in the fridge. This is the kind of fun we make in Germany. So complicated. Honey is never complicated. Complex systems are alive. Honey is alive, markets are alive, the climate is alive, teams are alive, businesses are alive, organizations are alive. Not necessarily in the biological sense of the word, but they are alive in that they produce surprises. The interactions between the parts, they change. If you have children, red problem. Yeah? If you want to understand an SAP software, do you know the company? It's a German company, but what the hell? Oracle stuff. If you want to understand it, what kind of problem is it? If you want to understand an ERP system, what kind of problem do you have? It's a blue problem. The complicated, when understood, turns simple. To the person with knowledge and mastery, the blue becomes simple. Now, honey at home, our loved ones, never becomes simple. Yeah? They continue to surprise us. You may not like the surprises, but who gives a damn? It's like the weather, you know? Okay. The complicated and the complex must be distinguished. One of the troubles in our organizations is that our organizations we are colorblind. We treat blue problems as if they were red problems, and red problems, this is the worst. Treat red problems as if they were blue problems. I'll give you an example. The future, what kind of problem is that? Red or blue? The future. It's a red problem, clearly. There's surprise involved. Huh? Software development, red problem as well. But the future, if you think of an average organization, what does an organization do when it tries to deal with the future, which is a red problem? What do they do? What does an organization do when it tries to understand the future or deal with the future? Plan. We plan. Okay, planning, is that a blue method or a red method? It's a fucking blue method. Yeah. Planning works well in the context of the blue. I can plan, I can control it, but I cannot control an organization. I cannot control a team. Planning is utter bollocks, as the British would say. It is complete BS. Yes. So planning, it works well in the domain of the blue, but not in the domain of the red. All planning should be abolished from your organizations. All planning. I come from the Beyond Budgeting movement. Maybe you have heard about it. Crazy people from the finance management side of organization, from performance management and so on. And I became associated with that in 2002. And one of our initial research questions was, what does an organization look like that doesn't do budgeting? It sounds like a simple enough question, but the answer surprised us. We found incredible organizations that wouldn't do planning. Again, planning belongs on the garbage heap of history. And I will show you why. If you think back, Portland, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, what was value creation like? Was it more red problems or more blue problems? This is the answer. Before the industrial age, lots of surprise happened. A company, a manufacturing company, a workshop company had to wait for the customer to arrive and then customize the product to this customer. There was no standardized production and then putting it on stock and selling it out of inventory. You had to customize. Highly individualized value creation. Lots of surprises, no standardization. We didn't have the production technology, none of the logistics to reduce this complexity. We were stuck in complexity 200, 300 years ago. All that has changed in the industrial age. For the first time in human history, massively expanding mass markets emerged. First in the UK, then of course in the Western world, US and the rest of Europe. We had these dull, slow-moving, oligopolistic or monopolistic mass markets. Those were gorgeous times, fantastic times. Companies like Ford Motor Company, of course, they epitomized this age. You know, when Henry Ford said things like, you can buy any car from us as long as it is black. Those were the days of blue markets, mass production, same, repetition. We had in the industrial age, for the first time in human history, we had the means to do mass production, we had the mass markets, and the logistics to serve them. Beautiful days. Yeah? We call this historic evolution. We call it the Taylor bathtub, because Taylorism fits right in here. In the industrial age, in the 1890s and 1900s, Frederick Taylor figured out that, okay, if we have so many complicated problems to solve, so much repetition to tackle, why do we have so many people in our factories thinking? It's a waste. That was a brilliant idea, a brilliant insight. In the crafts manufacturing age, 200, 300 years ago, every master in a workshop company thought. And every apprentice had to think as well to become a master in the future. In the industrial age, all that changed. We didn't need so much thinking. Few red problems, lots of blue problems, repetition. Standardization, automatization, rules, processes. Those were the glory days of the industrial age. Are you with me? Does it make sense? Of course, as you see here, this ends. In the 1970s, what happens is that this Tayloristic model that had been so successful for 60, 70, 80, 90 years collapses. It gets... Yeah? Because what happens is complexity grows back. Markets change again. There is no such thing as... I do not believe that currently we are suffering a great transformation in the world. The greatest transformation already happened. We are now just seeing what we call digital transformation and stuff. It's just manifestations of a transformation that has been happening since the 1970s, since the end of the industrial age. These are the two enormous transformations that really were happening. The industrial age starting and ending. And now we are in the knowledge age, information age, however you want to call it, but a fact is that markets have become fast-moving, highly competitive, highly globalized. They've become red. Competition matters. As you see on the top right, markets have become densely crowded, highly competitive. You may or may not like it. Nobody cares. This is a historic fact. Yeah? The only problem is that we're still riding the dead horse. This is the dead horse. This model was perfect for the industrial age. Lots of blue problems, few red problems. Now we are still applying the same model in our organizations over and over. We have been optimizing it. In the 1970s, what was the company that epitomized the dawn of the red age here on the right? There was one company from a strange country, not America. In Germany, we called it the miracle, and the was the country this company came from, strange country, strange land. You also called it this, the miracle. Do you know it? Toyota, of course. Toyota reinvented manufacturing. It reinvented production. At Toyota, what they did in the 1950s and 60s already, they reintegrated the thinking and the doing. They reunited the thinkers and the doers. Teams at the Toyota shop floor would think for themselves, not just produce, but also improve the work. Fucking Kaizen, who believes in that? And that it worked. Oh my God, and the quality was better than American cars. At the time, of course, you ignored it. John Updike wrote a fantastic trilogy of novels about it, but okay, yeah. This is it. The dawn of the knowledge age is closely associated with companies like Toyota, who reintegrated the thinking and the doing. People would think for themselves, no supervision needed, no planning needed. It was just in time, Kaizen, Kanban, flow, Nemawashi and stuff, and it worked. Other countries in the United States also started doing that very early on, in the 1960s even, like W.L. Gore, Southwest Airlines in the 1970s already. It was always one of these strange companies, despite recent happenings, okay, stuff. Of course, it has always been a company that is different. And some of these different companies, they showed us how to deal with the red problems effectively and also dealing with blue problems efficiently. Few companies have figured it out. Just to give a little example, to test you a little bit, in the realm of the blue, we need processes. And people have to follow them. Correct? Processes, they work perfectly in the realm of the blue. Repetition, automatization, standardization, processes. What do we know? If in the realm of the red, what do we need to solve red problems? There's only one thing in companies that can solve red problems. You're in the first row, my friend. Creativity, yes, but what is the thing that possesses creativity? I wanted to hear something like human beings or people. Yeah, people, exactly. Yeah, people. And you need, in order to solve red problems, you look, if complexity is real, and it is real, complexity strikes, surprise strikes, the only thing that can solve red problems is people with ideas. You need ideas. And processes do not have ideas. They just repeat the same sick stuff over and the same good stuff over and over. In complexity, you need projects. You may call it differently, but we need people with ideas and social density and communication. Usually in organizations, if we want to solve red problems, complex problems, we need communication to solve it. Not process repetition and automatization. The red and the blue, that is neither good nor bad. They are just very, very different. The blue and the red, very different. We need different approaches to solving them. In command and control, of course, this is the model that this is the dead horse that we are riding. Ultimately, I think what's ironic with the Agile movement is it's walking on the same path as the lean movement. The lean movement has become stuck in command and control. Yeah? The lean movement was from Toyota, just as the Agile movement ultimately the ideas were bred at Toyota, and the lean movement soon became very, very commercialized, very industrialized, and we also started to apply lean in command and control in this kind of model. And of course, you can never be lean in command and control. Lean is about self-organization. Guess what Agile is about? Self-organization. And in this kind of structure, you cannot create self-organization. The quality movement got stuck in command and control. The empowerment movement of the 1990s became stuck in command and control. the lean movement, and the agile movement is, I mean, the risk is of being sucked into command and control. To beautify this model, which we shouldn't do. We shouldn't make this more attractive. We should go here. This is the alternative. Systems theory teaches us that organizations have never been pyramids. They are peaches. Do you copy? Organizations are peaches. Every organization in this world is already secretly, very secretly, a peach. There is an epic struggle going on in organizations between the pyramid, command and control, steering, and real work. The real work is always done in the peach. I say peach because an organization, if you look at it as a system, it has an outer boundary. Do you see the boundary? It's like the skin of the peach. And then it has a center and a periphery, the pit and the flesh. The fleshy part is good. Yeah. That's why I chose this. You cannot eat the pit, really. Can you eat the pit? Yeah, in a soup or something like that. No, not sure. Organizations, look at what happened in the industrial age. If you look at organizations as systems, what we did and perfected in the industrial age, thanks to Taylorism, was that we learned to steer organizations from the inside out. Managers, center in this case, it's not really true, but managers are in the center in a Tayloristic mindset, and they have to steer the organization from the inside out. Do you see that? The periphery is being steered. The stupid people in the factories and stupid software developers are steered by management. Yeah? What do we use to steer them? Budgets, steering committees, profit managers. Who's a profit manager? Project manager, sorry. Project managers here in the room? That's an evil title. You are aware of that, right? Because a project manager, it's always this. It's an evil. You are not to blame. You're not the problem, by the way. You are not the problem. It's our mental models, you know, that is the problem. We must exercise organizations in a certain way. Now imagine industrial age, stupid people working in the factory, uneducated people at Frederick Taylor's time, at least people were maybe perceived like that by industrial bosses, and you steer them from the inside out. You do a lot of planning, and then later in the 1960s, Peter Drucker came along with management by objectives, so we give people individual targets and then steer them by targets. We grab them by the, the thing. And we give them incentives and that kind of stuff. Yeah? We steer and we steer and we steer. That worked well that works well enough. Centralized steering works well enough in what kind of market condition? Lots of blue. If markets are predominantly blue, or if value creation is predominantly a blue problem, centralized steering works well enough. Yeah? It's not humanistic. Humanistically, it's still wrong to tell people not to think and to follow orders, even if they are stupid. But what really, really happened since the 1970s is this. Organizations, due to red markets, outsourced the steering to the markets. Your organizations are not really steered from the inside out. They are steered from the outside in. Outside of the peach, there are markets, customers, clients, and they have taken over the steering because they are in charge. They have choice. Yeah? They confront us with surprises, with complex problems. And if organizations outsource the steering to the market, which they did in the 1970s and 80s, then who should be in charge within the organization? Matt. It's always Matt. People on the outside, yes, the periphery. We call it the periphery, the fleshy stuff. Because when markets turn red, who can understand the market? Only the periphery. Only people in the periphery, or teams, which are these little, I call them cells. You see the little bubbles? They are teams, or what we call cells. And only they can understand the market. I'm not sure what I have to do. Dan wants me to stand here all the time. He's a great friend, so I will do that. He also has a great approach to how not to enforce Agile upon people and Scrum. And he will do a little session, right? How to communitize, how to socialize Agile, and not... Because one of the problems of Agile, of course, is that we have come to implement Agile in this way. Command and control, steering, top-down decisions, driving it in. Or the evil word, alignment. That's the language of oppression, right? Obviously. Of course it is. Fucking... No, if I'm really Darth-like, I say, it's strategic, motherfuckers. I did the thinking, you are just operational. If you call somebody operational, it's like telling them you're stupid scum. And I'm the thinker, I'm strategic IT. Have you ever worked in strategic IT? It's like, I want to have power, you know? Strategic HR, if your HR department declares itself strategic, run. Yeah, because it means now we want to think, we want to have power, we want to steer you, obey. It's, thank you. Dan loved it. Okay, good. He's a friend already, okay. Okay, when markets turned red in the 1970s and 80s, we outsourced the steering, and the problem is that only the periphery has direct market contact. Do you see that here? It's not a people problem, it's not an intelligence problem. People in the center have no direct market contact. You see it? The center is isolated by the periphery from the market. It cannot understand client problems. Only the periphery can do that. So a terrible thing happens in today's organizations. What's America's most terrible organization? The worst company in America. We don't have to agree on that. The government. That's not an organization. That's such a wrong. The government is not an organization. Yeah? The government consists of several organizations. Among them, the Republican Party, if you want to say so. There's many organizations, public companies, and so on. Let's pick a specific government organization if you want to. Oh no, let's pick a bank. Or other organizations that you want to suggest? He's still thinking. Aaron is still thinking. Comcast? Okay. I like Bank of America as a negative example. Wells Fargo, of course. Oh yeah, Wells Fargo is a great example. What did the center say at Wells Fargo? Let's think about the Wells Fargo case in this. The center says, we must, there was thinking, supposedly. And it was, let's have more clients. Okay, we crystallized this idea, which is an okay idea. But then they crystallized this thinking, let's grow, let's have new clients, further clients. Let's crystallize it into commands. So what did they do? They emitted to the salespeople, which is an ugly word. It's as terrible as alignment and strategy and all this shit. Yeah? So they crystallize it into targets, growth targets, and you have to open customers. What was the target about? Open new customer accounts, which the periphery did. See, that happens when intelligent people are forced and bribed into the work and steered from the center. Criminal stuff happens, like at Volkswagen. You know? The state of California wants diesel motors to be more eco-friendly or whatever stuff. Somebody from Volkswagen in California hears that, sends a fax to Wolfsburg in Germany, a fax. It's Volkswagen. They send faxes. Okay, sends an email or whatever. So, and he says, the state of California, there will be this law, we must change, we must innovate our diesel motors. What does the center say in Germany? No, we don't get any time for that. We don't give you time to work on that, nor money. That really happened. That actually happened. You do not get time or money to do it. So what does the periphery do? Something very smart. You walk over to Bosch on the other side of the street, and there are software developers. That's the solution. It's a crime, of course. Yeah? But you develop a software that fakes. You know, that's what happens when the periphery is stuck between legitimate market forces and internal steering, which is always bullshit. Companies implode. That's what we have been seeing at Wells Fargo, at Volkswagen, other criminal cases like at Siemens, another German company, many criminal cases of companies doing shit like that in the US as well. So this is where we are. We are in an age of red markets where we have to solve red problems, and we continue the steering. I don't think that top managers at these companies are evil, by the way. I do not think so. They are just embedded and acting intelligently within evil systems. That's a problem. The problem is not people. The problem is that our systems are command and control, steering from the inside out, and that is bad. There is an epic struggle in organizations between the pyramid and the peach, the left and the right. People want to do their work. People in the periphery, exactly like you guys. I mean, what else is agile than a cry for freedom and a little bit of autonomy? That's why the Agile Manifesto was written, right? Out of suffering. Let's end this slavery in software development. Help! Yeah, but we didn't. Okay, we still steer. Because who works in an organization that has a budget? Just as a test question? Budgeting? Budgeting present in anybody's organization? You're just too shy to admit. Okay, good. Yeah? There's an epic war in organizations between the way where the work works, which is always on the right side. Value creation, that's a law of physics. Value creation flows from the center to the periphery to the market. The center must serve the periphery so that the periphery can serve the market. That's something like a physical law of value creation. But no, we structure organizations around functional divisions, hierarchical divisions, command and control, and we steer organizations from the top down with all kinds of instruments. That is where we are. And the problem, I believe, has to do with this. Who knows this concept, theory X, theory Y? Oh, my, oh God, okay. One hand went up. Okay, no problem. This concept is very recent. Do you know when it was invented by Douglas McGregor? How old it is? 60s, beginning of the 60s. This is just 58 years old, so there's a lot of time to hear about it. I think every agilist in the world must read the book that this concept is from. It's called The Human Side of Enterprise. You don't have to believe in McGregor, but he was an American, very trustworthy, and he was one of the key motivational researchers of his time, next to Abraham Maslow and Frederick Herzberg. He tried to figure out how human nature at work works. McGregor said, we have not one image of human nature in our hearts when we're at work. We do not have one impression of other people at work in our hearts, we have two. There are two images of human nature that we hold in our heads and in our hearts at work. Okay? Do not worry about X at Y. It has nothing to do with Generation X or Generation Y or any of that. We don't know why McGregor called these images of human nature theory X or theory Y. What is important is that there is not one human nature, as Michael Jackson has a song about it, right? Tell him that it's human nature, but he doesn't talk of two human natures. It's two human natures that we assume that exist at work. And I would like you to reflect a little bit about it and then do research. What you find, you've probably found on your chairs 2 Post-its. Do you have them? You got to pick them up. We will do a little bit of research with these Post-its. No harm will be done. Yeah? Just don't eat them. You also need a pen in a minute, but don't worry. Nothing dangerous will happen. And this is a very analog activity later on. You really, really need a pen. You need to write something on it. Okay, theory X. McGregor said, this was about 60 years ago. McGregor said, okay, there is this one image of human nature where we assume that people are not lazy or stupid, but they dislike the work. These X buggers, they dislike the work. Theory X people want to avoid the work if they can. They're not lazy, they're just not so inclined to like the work, you know? So what is the role of management or leadership in this model? It is to force or bribe people into the work, you know, force responsibility upon them, give them orientation from the outside. How do we call this kind of, now Aaron, this is for you. How do we call this kind of motivational assumption behind this? Intrinsic or extrinsic? Extrinsic, yeah. Theory X assumes that people, these Xers, they must be extrinsically, from the outside, be motivated. The main motivational factors for X people are, as you see here, people are motivated mainly by money and fear about their job security. So we must use these motives or these fears to make some effort. Yeah? These X people, they must be steered, forced, and bribed. Yeah? There's also an assumption here about creativity. It's theory X, this image of human nature that McGregor described for the first time. McGregor, he was the first really to describe this to the point. And he said, okay, if we think of theory X people, we think that few people have creative potential, except when it comes to circumnavigating management rules. That's when the creative part kicks in with theory X people, yeah? Just then. Okay, have you ever thought this? Probably, yeah? We all know this kind of human nature, image of human nature, yeah? And there's this other image of human nature. Now, McGregor says there's no mix in this. People can be either X in our minds, or they can be Y. Theory Y says, okay, this is more tricky. Theory Y assumes that people need the money. They need the work and the money they earn from the work to feed themselves and their loved ones. But these Y people, they also want to take an interest in the work. Can you follow? Okay, they need the money, but people also want to take an interest in it. In other words, these people are intrinsically motivated. Aaron now follows perfectly well. That is very good. Thank you. If people are intrinsically motivated, McGregor says, then they will be capable of self-organization, self-steering if they understand and follow the objectives, and they will take on responsibility if the conditions are right. There is creative potential in this image of human nature. There's creative potential in in most people, or maybe all people, but organizations grossly underuse this potential. Okay, do you see it? The difference? It doesn't mix. If we have an image of human nature, we either assume that they are X or Y, that they are that they have to be extrinsically motivated, or that they are intrinsically motivated. Okay? You will soon see why this is important. Shall we do a little exercise? Please take the pink Post-it notes, this reddish pink Post-it, and you just have to write one letter on it as follows. Very simple. Look inside your own heart. Think of your own human nature. Try to be honest. Try to be honest. Look inside your heart. Think about what kind of person. You can only be an X person or a Y person. Very important clue to this. Do not judge your behaviors or feelings here. This is not about behaviors or feelings. This is about your fucking human nature. Individually. That shouldn't shake. It shouldn't shake, yeah? Think about your human nature, judge yourself. You can only be an X or a Y. Is that okay, or is it a process? I mean, many of you are scientists, I know that. Is that okay? You don't have to believe in any of the things that McGregor says, or I say, of course. Is it okay, the method that I'm applying? Please assume that there are only X or Y people in the world. Judge yourself, X or Y on the... Did you do it? Did you write? Did you choose your human nature? Try to be brutally honest. Do not judge your behavior, judge your human nature. Did that? Okay, then exchange the pink Post-it note with another person in the room, close to you. Just exchange it with anybody. Some people say, this is the best part of your talk, Niels. I met somebody. The rest of it was so. Let's not discuss, no discussion, no analysis. Just exchange the paper, accept the paper back. You should now have a pink Post-it note. Somebody else wrote a letter on it, right? Correct? Stop it. Stop the fuzz. What's happening? Shush. Shush. Yellow Post-it. Yellow Post-it. Please take the yellow Post-it. Yellow Post-it. This is more difficult. Aaron, my friend, do you work in a large organization, or are you an agile coach or something creepy? Both. Okay. Where do you work?
Kepware. PTC.
Kepware. I don't know that. Okay. Is it a large company? How many people?
It's owned by PTC, which is a large company.
Okay. PTC has how many people?
6,000.
6,000? Okay, that's a large company here in the US? Okay, good. Nice. No, I'm just making a joke. Think of your own organization. Who is a solo entrepreneur or something like that? Again, I'm a solo entrepreneur. I only have myself. If you are, no problem. Think about your clients and other people you know that work. Do you know other people that work? Other people that work? Do you know them? Family? I'm not sure why she's reacting very shy. You're what? Okay, then you, but it's not, no problem. Think of your previous employer. How many people? How many people? Thousands. Now she's very timid. Okay, good. But okay, think about them all. It may be tens or thousands or 100,000. Who works at a really, really large company, just to check?
85,000.
85,000, that's cute. Okay, good. So think of them all. You have to think of your 85,000. You all think of all the people you know, all people in your company. If it's a global company, think of them all globally, even if you don't know them. There might be Indians or Brazilians or French people. Even... But still, they must have a human nature, according to... I'm German, you know, we have this epic thing with them. Now Macron, he's quite cool. Okay, good. Enough of politics. Yellow paper. Think about these people. Now judge their human nature. In your case, 55,000 people, judge their human nature, and write on the yellow Post-it note, please, the percentage of X people in this crowd, among this group. The percentage of, I give you a hint, it cannot be -5 or 117. It must, in this case, be 0 or 100 or something in between, right? The percentage of X people, human nature X people.
In our organization.
In your organization, or among this group of people that you imagine, yes? Can you do that? You have to write it down on this piece of paper. Did you do that already?
No.
No, you should do it now, please. Do it now. You have to do it now. Man. Just kidding. Write it down, please. You have to write it down. The percentage. It can be just a number or with a percent sign. It doesn't matter. Just a number as a percentage. Did you do it? Now exchange the yellow paper with somebody else in the room, with somebody close to you. Yes, Aaron, do it. Okay. Shush. Stop. What's happening with these people? You are very chatty. This is not a workshop. This is a keynote. Maine. Okay, let's analyze the results. Don't worry, I studied statistics at the University of Hanover in Germany. I know how it works. Pick up the red post. You have to take it in your hands, the red, just pink, read it. There's a letter written on it. Somebody wrote a letter on it. If it says X, please hold it up. Only X's. Oh, hold them up, please, as high as your arms and your health, your physical health allows. How many X's do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh my God. 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh my God. Okay, this stinks so much. Okay, good. There's a problem here, a statistical problem. I will have to round that down to 0. That's what statisticians do. They round everything. Oh, nah, it's noise. But okay, I'm not fucking with you. We saw 12 or so post-its. I rounded it down to 0. There's a reason for that. It's not just a joke. I rounded it down to 0. Now, please take this yellow post-it note. Somebody wrote a number or a percentage on it. If it says 0 or 0%, please hold it up. 0 or 0. Oh, whoa. Now look around. This is very important. Look around. How many? I'm not so that just 0% goes up. Are you unsure? Why? What? What did they wrote? Right. Then hold it up. Yes. Hold it up, hold it up, hold it up. The 0, only the zeros. There are 10 or 15 of them, right? Do you see the problem? We are all fucked. This is why Agile is not working, Dan. It's not because of open space or something and we are not using enough of it. This is the problem. Do you agree?
We just got it all terribly wrong.
We all got it terribly wrong. What did we get? Did anybody understand why I'm saying such things? What is wrong with the result? Who wants to interpret it? Quick, fast, very fast, brutally fast. Okay, that's the fact. And what's the problem with that? We don't intrinsically understand our organizations. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds very good. Yes, somebody has said something. I'm just joking a little bit with you. Who said something? Somebody said something. We got it wrong. What did you mean? That's what Dan said. You just repeated it, Joseph.
Oh.
No, it's good.
We think we're better than the people we work with.
Okay, and what's the problem with that?
It's wrong.
Why? In which way? X and Y? What is the problem? Do you see the problem? There is a problem. There is a problem with X's. Huh?
We're colorblind.
Yes, you're treating, yes. Yes, what?
Everybody's Y, but we're structured as X.
Everybody's Y, but we are structured, who is we in this case? It's structured like X?
Organization.
Organization, that is exactly, you are certainly an amigo of McGregor as well. That is precisely correct. So, McGregor, you don't have to believe in, his name is Craig. You don't have to believe in Craig or me or McGregor, but we are close. We are a bunch. McGregor, 58 years ago, he said the following: there's no scientific evidence or proof whatsoever that Theory X people exist. In fact, they do not exist, have never existed, will never exist. The problem with Theory X people is just one: they do not freaking exist. How is that even possible? Because everybody here in the room, except 12 or so, believes that Theory X people exist. The reason, Craig just gave it away, it is that we imagine people as Xers, and then we build the perfect organizations for X people to exist in. And what McGregor told us 58 years or so ago, is that if we treat perfectly normal Theory Y human beings as creepy X shit, then they will behave just like donkeys. They will intelligently adapt stupid norms or patterns of behavior. That is what command and control prisons do to ordinary people. Did you get it? You don't have to believe in me. I know it's hard to believe. The right percentage is 0. No, there's no Theory X person in the world. Of course, that's something that Edward Deming told us also decades ago. Usually, if we find a problem in an organization, we try to attach it to people, not the system. In 95% of the problems, Deming said, when we encounter a problem, we try to attach it to people. We try to blame people. But in fact, 95% of problems come from the system, not the people. Only 5% of the problems come from people because they occasionally do fucked up stuff. But people are not the problem. People are totally okay. But the system causes the behavior. The systems are powerful. A bad system will beat a good person every time. That's something that Deming said, I think. That's something that McGregor would have said. So in the industrial age, McGregor argued 40, 50, 60 years ago, he said, in the industrial age, we imagine people as ex-people, we shape organizations as prisons for ex-people because they must be forced. What kind of person do incentives work with? Incentives, like giving a bonus, you're giving our colleague here, Craig, I give him a target, 100, and I give him a bonus if he reaches the 100. What kind of person does that work with, this kind of mechanism? Only with ex-people. Only ex-people, which, curiously enough, do not even exist. Imagine a bank where you incentivize everyone. Imagine sales organization. By the way, sales departments should have never existed. They are a mistake, a wrong thought turned structure. Yeah? Like key accountants. Any key accountants here? Or HR people? It's the same. Or product managers, of course. Yeah, it's all steering. Or COO. Any COOs in the room? You're not the problem. It's just the job that is the problem. Because it's all about steering. Now, this is a little exercise for you to test. But if McGregor is right, then it is easy to force theory by people into XY behavior. Yeah? People will never turn X, but they will show XY behavior. It's the tools in our organizations that produce the stupid behavior that we observe. Predominantly, it's this whole command and control toolbox that we use that produces shitty behavior in organizations. Predominantly. Only 95% of the problems come from these tools. Please count the tools on the next slide that you know from your organizations, that you have in your organizations. Can you see it? Can you read it? Count the tools that you have in your organization. Many of them? Most of them? Is there anybody here who doesn't have any of these, almost none of this in his or her organization? Of course, startups have little of this crap, right? I call these X tools. They produce X-y behavior. They treat Y people like X people and treat red problems as if they were blue problems, which is also bullshit, right? Which is why lots of planning stuff is here. Quotas and sales targets, individual targets, target negotiations, performance appraisal is a favorite of mine. Performance appraisal is like you coming home and saying, honey, time for our annual performance conversation. You know I'm an agilist. We use KPIs a lot. I measured your performance over the last 12 months. We talked about it a year ago. I'm not sure if you remember, but you performed well in some of the indicators, and other indicators there's lots of space for you to improve. You know? That's the kind of conversation. We would never have it at home. Why? Aaron? Why do we not have this conversation at home? Because we will quickly lose honey. Yes, exactly. We will quickly. That's true. Of course, in command control organizations, it's normal. We treat our underlings like that, you know. We have travel. Who works in a company that has a travel policy? Hold up your hands if you can. And if it's true, travel policies. Seems very normal, right? Of course, that is infantilizing shit. Because a travel policy tells other people that they are imbeciles. Yeah? Every travel policy in the world was invented because some guy named Carl or Doug or Michael flew business class or traveled business or first, and there were other people talking about it. And there was some boss or HR person that would not confront Craig or Michael or Doug. And out of fear, somebody said, let's write a travel policy. That's how we get into this trouble. You know, all this shit, all this command and control steering stuff. We invented to create social distance. Agile is much the contrary. Agile is organized social density. And all this stuff smashes social density. It makes organizations distant and anonymous and crude and raw and brutal. It brutalizes organizations. Command and control is organization by fear and brutalization, individualization. People feel lonely, then we take pills and such stuff. So, all of this stuff here belongs on the garbage heap of history. It may not be entirely clear. You can take photos and tweet. Why doesn't nobody tweet here? Do you tweet? There's a hashtag, Agile Maine Day, right? Yeah. Agile Maine Day, please tweet, yes? If you are in a larger organization with 80,000, what do you think would it be worth for our friends' organization here to abolish all these creepy practices from this organization? How much time would people have? Yeah. Think steering committees for going away, just steering committees. Or HR. What the hell? You know, it would be such great places, but no. Our organizations, we are stuck in command and control. Now, the dirty truth, the beautiful truth is organizations are already peaches. I said that before. But the truth of organizations is organizational physics. They have been strikingly evident in organizations for a long time now. Organizations do not have this kind of structure. They have three structures. Every organization in the world, even Greenpeace, has three structures. This structure is the most famous one. But in systems theory, we call this usually the front stage of organizations. Officially, we fool ourselves that we are all in charge, managers are in charge, bosses, heroes, and then you have to appear on the cover of Fast magazine or Fast Company or whatever magazine. You know? We love the heroes at the top. Yeah? We think that they steer the work, that Elon Musk drives the company, that Steve Jobs designed the iPhone, and all this stupid stuff. Yeah. Yeah, we love the heroes. So this is the front stage of organizations. Lots of light there, little action, because the action is where? In a theater? At the edge, or in a theater, it's on the backstage. Lots of stuff going on the backstage. Little light, but lots of action in a real theater. This is just me, yeah, on the front stage. But the real action, of course, is there, and it might be in the backstage. In organizations, the backstage is twofold. Every organization also has this kind of structure. Do you see what it does and what it might be called? This is formal structure. The only use of formal structure is to create compliance, to be within the law, have contracts, accounting systems, to do the bookkeeping stuff, to have a nominated CEO or audit committee if you have a certain legal form as a company. Yeah? So this is good for compliance, but not for organizing the work. This is terrible for organizing the work. Work doesn't happen in functional silos. They should never have existed, by the way. But every organization has this structure. It's very powerful. What is it called, this structure? And what is it about? This is the social structure. We call it informal structure. Every organization has it. Water cooler talks happens here. Very powerful. If we say, oh, this is the power of the boss, this is the power of the chief executive secretary, assistants, you know, of people who are liked. Information travels very fast in this structure. Informal structure is highly effective. And there is a power here, we call it influence. This power, we call it hierarchy. This power, we call it influence. Very powerful. Ignore it at your own peril. As I like to say, in a company that's large, it is very important that you drink coffee and smoke. Otherwise, the information will never reach you. Yeah? You will have to wait for the CEO email to know that McKinsey is coming in. Or Accenture. Isn't Accenture a sponsor? It's good to know, so smoke. Smoking connects you to the real people. The influencers. Yeah? Okay, now the fun fact is every organization has formal structure for compliance, and this is this is the thing that keeps, if times are rough, we socialize even more to make up for the bad stuff flowing from the top down. So this is very important for survival. But look at it. No work is done in informal structure. If I like Aaron or not, that isn't work. If we are close and talking and so, this is not the work. The work always happens in the third structure that is ignored by almost all companies in the world. Very few companies understand the structure in which work is done. Believe me, no work is done here, no work is done here. So how do we work? I told you already. This is how we work. We work in teams in interaction with each other, for each other. Value creation doesn't happen through the org chart or in informal conversations. It happens in performing and creating value with each other, for each other, in the space between people. That's where value creation happens. Between teams and within teams. And for the external customer, for the external market. Value creation flows from the inside out. Like it or not, believe it or not, it's like that. The periphery should be in charge because markets have turned red and dynamic and competitive, period. It's not a question of opinion. The only way to build organizations for complexity, so that they become complexity robust, is to radically decentralize decision-making to teams in the periphery, period. That's it. Don't believe in what I say, but this is a fact. What happens in our organizations is there's this epic struggle between formal structure, the pyramid, usually, unfortunately, and value creation structure. And all this is smothered over, like the creamy stuff in between, that's informal structure. We socialize it all out. There's an epic war going on between value creation and the real work and formal structure and steering. And we must solve this to create really, truly agile organizations. This is not a matter of opinion, this is organizational physics. We talk a lot about culture. Who loves to talk about culture? Organizational culture? Stop it. Yeah, it's useless. It's useless. Follow me on this. If you think don't believe in anything, yeah? But according to systems theory, you have these three structures, you know? Three structures. This is organizational physics. In all of these structures, we behave. They interact as well. They are interdependent, these structures, you know? If you have a board meeting, it's not just formal structure that is present, but also the social structure, of course, not value creation structure. Never ever has value been created in a steering committee meeting. Never ever, which is why they should be abolished. They should be eliminated. But what happened is that behavior produces culture. Culture is like a shadow. Look, if I stand here, I produce a shadow, but can I change my shadow? Aaron? No, I cannot. I can only change my position, myself, or the lighting, so that the shadow changes. I cannot change the shadow. I can only change the system in organization. I cannot change culture. We can only change the system so that behavior will change. And then through complex ripple effects, the culture, these changes will manifest themselves at some point in the culture. And we may not like the results because culture is like rude. It's like a mirror. It shows the creepy stuff in the culture. It's like the bad things we did a couple of years ago often. Yeah? So culture cannot be shaped, cannot be controlled. It's a complex phenomenon. It's just like a moving shadow. It follows the organization anywhere. Let's stop talking about culture so much. Besides, people in an organization, if you have been working for a long time in your organization, you cannot even understand your culture. That's a systemic fact. Because you think stuff in your organization is normal. Only people new to an organization can see the culture. They see all the creepy stuff, the nonsense that we do. But after 3 or 6 months or so, we become acclimatized or integrated or sucked into the organization's culture, and we consider things normal. People at Volkswagen think that everything at Volkswagen is pretty normal, until there is a verdict in the court. Yeah? So culture is very powerful. It acclimatizes people. It sucks in people. Yeah? But we cannot change it. No way to change culture. If you have ever have seen a culture change initiative, have you seen that kind of stuff going on? Culture projects? Oh my God, that's a waste of money. Right? You can do it, it's just, there's no solution. So this is what I would like to offer you here as a thought. People are not the problem. People have always been why people. We just treat them as X-fools, and they will consistently behave as X-fools if we just treat them badly enough. You know? People intelligently behave like fools in most of our organizations. Yeah. This peach model that I was talking about, it's not an option. The question is just, when do you start to go there? When do we start to eliminate command and control from our organizations? It's not an option, it's a question of when do we change? The Toyotas are already out there. I have a couple of preferred companies as well. I like to show this slide very, very briefly and then click over it. So that you don't become addicted in the cases. Are there peach companies? Yes, there are. Did you see them very briefly? Yeah, no. The problem with cases, look, I will show it to you again. Yeah. The problem with cases is the following. Cases do not help. They do not work. Why, Aaron? Cases do not work. If Case is convinced of changing our organization, then Volkswagen wouldn't exist as it existed. Toyota has been around for so long. Which American company has perfected lean or decentralization or the Toyota way? Tell me a company that has done it in the US. Southwest in a way. But then, if Southwest was a great case that convinced anybody, what the fuck is going on with Delta? Or American Airlines? I'm afraid of these people. It's not even people. I prefer, no. Nobody learns from cases. That's the problem with cases. They're beautiful, but the problem is that then what do we think about Southwest and Toyota? We think, they can do it because they have different people. They're Japanese. Toyota, Toyota people, strange in the head. They are Japanese, We like to think that our people are ex-people, so it wouldn't work here. It wouldn't work here. Or what's another fantastic company, W.L. Gore? W.L. Gore, strange people probably as well. Strange, very strange. And Google only does what Google does because they're so rich. So we have all kinds of excuses, to not do it, you know? What I'd like to offer you here is the Agile Manifesto it's very well written, but it's incomplete, unfortunately. Yeah? The Agile Manifesto, it presents the right principles, they're correct, they're good, they're a little bit too nerdy, if I may say so. This is not criticism. I mean, we should update this stuff from time to time. What I'm showing here are the beyond budgeting principles. We call them, when they were created, we called them the beyond budgeting model, or beyond budgeting principles. Then we reworked them. We iterated a little bit. I'm not sure if you believe in that, but iteration, yeah, we iterated. So now we call it the Beta Codex, or Beta. And what we learned from this community, the beyond budgeting community, then the Beta community, is that, of course, command and control organizations, they are based on principles that are bad. On the right, you see them on the right, alpha, we call it alpha. Command and control alpha organizations are based on principles and beliefs. It's like a dogma, and it works with X people who do not exist, and in markets that do not exist anymore. Okay, so we must move to different principles. That's the insight that I hope you get from this little talk. We must move from alpha principles to beta principles. Like it or not, we may change the words over time, but believe me or not, incentives do not work with real people. Yeah? We should have something like sharing of profits, maybe, yes, and sharing of a lot of it. We need transparency, that is clear. In command and control, we do not need transparency, but in complexity, we need transparency, because transparency is like oxygen for entrepreneurial spirit. You know? So we need different principles. And the Agile Manifesto, I think we must at some point understand that we cannot really create an Agile team or a Scrum team if we still have incentives and individual targets and top-down planning going on in organizations. We must go beyond the team level, and to scale Agile, probably we need to scale our principles a little bit. So these are the principles that I suggest that we should follow in order to move from command and control pyramids to radically decentralized organizations, to liberate the peach organization that is already in every command and control organization. It's just hidden in the backstage. Hidden, and like a muscle that has become, exercised, exactly. That has become weak. We have to liberate the peach within the pyramid organizations of today. Thank you very much for your attention. Good to get up.
So our next session starts at 10:20, and we have coffee and space upstairs as well, and the restrooms are near the garage. We also recorded this session, so I think we're recording this one and the closing keynote. So we'll probably be uploading those within a week to our website and YouTube channel. Thank you.